What's up, Jets fans? Welcome to the latest edition of Jets Latest, where you get the latest on the Jets, Jets. I'm your host, the spitting statistician, Dane Martinez, and training camp starts this week, and we are excited. There is a real sense of development, optimism, or at least respect for what is happening with the new brain trust of Aaron Glenn and Darren Moji, and that we could be on the precipice of a turnaround, and it will truly get going this week as training camp goes on. Last week, we talked about extensions for Garrett Wilson. We talked about extensions for Sauce Gardner, and one of the other big pieces of business was for the Jets to formally bring in their second-round draft pick, Mason Taylor, out of LSU. Well, I am happy to report that when training camp gets going and everybody reports, Mason Taylor will be there as well. As you can see on the bottom, we are signed, sealed, and delivered and ready for training camp, and that is because Mason Taylor has signed his rookie deal with the New York Jets. It is a 4-year, $10.46 million deal, but if you've been watching Jets Latest, seen it in the news, you knew that the real story around these second-round picks and why so many of them were left unsigned was the idea that they were looking for them to be fully guaranteed, which is something that wasn't part of the CBA. Contracts were just pretty much slotted in terms of money, but after the 33rd and 34th overall pick for the Browns and Texans got their second round deals fully guaranteed, more and more second round picks were trying to get their deal fully guaranteed, and Mason Taylor gets over 90% of his deal guaranteed. The fourth year of this deal is 60% guaranteed, all right? And that is a huge increase from the draft spot where Mason Taylor was 42nd last year. So he will be there for training camp, and you can kind of see the dam started to break as this became a story, as training camp was on the horizon. We saw Chargers wide receiver Trey Harris actually hold out as a second-round pick, but then more and more people started to sign, and we just saw the amount of the contracts that were fully guaranteed kind of like decrease a little bit by little bit throughout the second round. So you can see some of the other second rounders, once we get into the 40s, how they have portions but not all of their rookie deals guaranteed, all the way down to number 70, the running back for the Denver Broncos, R.J. Harvey, who has just under half of his third year fully guaranteed. So that has become kind of the new, formula, let's say, for a draft picks. But once again, big shout out to Darren Moji, the first year GM here, getting the important guys in. There will not be any holdouts, and everybody is excited. We continue to demonstrate that we will take care of our own, and we are building from the ground up. And that obviously really took shape last week as the Jets went ahead and gave Garrett Wilson a huge extension, making him among the top 5 or 6 in terms of wide receivers. In terms of their average annual value, it is over $32 million. And listen, Garrett Wilson is excited and ready to kind of make good on the kind of demonstration of trust and faith and belief that the green and white had in him. Listen to what he had to say. Yup, Jets green has been running through me since the day they drafted me. Despite the ups and downs, the faith is mutual. That means the world to me. Excited to start a new version of the chase next week. That's what Garrett Wilson had to say. And I actually believe, and some people around the league are starting to say, that Garrett Wilson is a underappreciated, underrespected wide receiver, really in the upper echelons of wide receivers. And check this out. He's only been in the league for 3 years, but he has had 80 or more receptions and 1,000 or more yards in all 3 of those seasons. The only other wide receivers to do that, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Michael Thomas with the Saints, and Odell Beckham. I would say that's a pretty good list. I have been here on Jets Latest talking about how he finished 4th among wideouts in receptions, in yards, in targets last year. That was even with Devontae Adams on the other side. Now he has his former college teammate Justin Fields as his quarterback. Now he has the bag, and he is starting to get more and more respected truly at that level. I mean, we believe that Garrett Wilson is going to play that Amon-Ra St. Brown kind of role for this Detroit Lions offense, as we have a real Detroit flavor here with Tanner Engstrand coming over And that is a great possession receiver. You've seen the great catches that he's made. You know the hands that he has. We've talked about the drop rate here on Jets Latest. Really among the best, especially in terms of number one alpha wide receivers. We've talked about the kind of adjusted catch percentage. We've talked about his stats, and it is great that he was signed last week or extended through 2030. The other kind of Jet for life cornerstone that was extended last week was clearly Sauce Gardner, who is being paid now as the top cornerback in the NFL. They just bumped him just over Derek Stingley's deal from $30 million a year to $30.1 million a year. And it's interesting. Remember, Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner both came into this league together. If you remember, in 2022, they were the offensive rookie of the year and the defensive rookie of the year from the same draft, both top 10 picks from the former regime, right? And G5 and Sauce, they both participated in OTAs, participated in minicamp, and they have been talking for years now about how they were brought in together, how they are cornerstones, how iron sharpens iron in practice, and how they're going to be here for a long time. Listen to what Sauce had to say. He goes, "Since day one, we always came here saying we got to push each other because we want to help this organization because New York is a big market. So if you win in New York, it's big for your legacy individually, big for the organization. Fast forward, we're going into year 4 together. So we always talk about competing at practice, like how we got to make each other better because we are building blocks of this organization. We are the homegrown talent that AG talks about. They absolutely are, and they took care of them. Same as like a guy like Jamie and Sherwood, right? So we are seeing that this organization is taking care of their own, and we are really building something together. I talked about it last week, the signal that this sends, getting ahead of the game for some of these contract extensions. And so whether it's a rookie like Mason Taylor, who they take care of and slot him in the right way, respect the trend of the fully guaranteed contracts for the second round picks, or if it's being proactive about giving the bag to guys like Garrett Wilson, an elite wide receiver in this league, Sauce Gardner, an elite cornerback in this league. It seems like the front office is signaling to the Jets, you take care of us, we will take care of you. And it is great to kind of have that era of good feelings, that momentum as we head into training camp. I am excited for the green and white to report later on this week, and we will certainly be here to talk about it on Jets Latest. I'm not the only one talking about it on Jets Latest. Let's see what some of you guys had to say in the comments. Thank you again. We hit 1,900 subscribers this week. That is just continuing to grow. I appreciate the likes, the views. Tell a Jets fan friend to tell a Jets fan friend. There's going to be some people that are only now starting to think about the Jets in the new football season. Tell them you found the Spittin' Statistician right here on Jets Latest. By the way, check this out. Nicholas Minette, 2692. Here's what he says. He goes, love these two guys and the deals they received. But one point I don't think a lot of people are highlighting. Getting these deals done before training camp is huge for the culture and team morale. Homegrown guys getting paid sets the example for everyone else to put their heads down and go to work. Put in the work, perform on Sundays, and you will be taken care of. Adds extra fuel to the fire for these guys. I agree, Nicholas. That is what I am saying. This new regime, which has brought in a lot of young talent. We talk about the roster turnover, the second youngest roster in the NFL. We cleared the deck of kind of the old drama, Aaron Rodgers and others, right? And they are building, growing, developing together. And like Nicholas said, that signal is there. Sharon McLean, who has been commenting, thank you so much, says, feels like we are getting ready for takeoff. I completely agree with that. Remember, the win total is 5.5. You still have time to try to get that over if you still can, because it is going to move up as soon as people start to realize what is being built here. Remember, I also told you Aaron Glenn as like the 3rd or 4th choice for coach of the year at like 12-1 is an interesting play. Old Dave 1000, who's been out there in the comments. I see you, Old Dave. Thanks for being part of Jets Latest. He says, the Jets added many players to the secondary. I think we'll see scheme innovation, much like the Cardinals do. Malachi Moore could play a Buda Baker type role. We have talked about that as well, right? How Aaron Glenn plays that man coverage over 60% of the time. He identified tall, lanky press man covers, drafted a guy like A.Z. Thomas in the 3rd round, right? But what we also have talked about is the versatility. We've talked about it with guys like Malachi Moore, who played that star position in Alabama, the same as Branch did for Alabama and then did in Detroit, right? We talked about the versatility even of a Brandon Stevens, who could play a little bit of safety if A.Z. Thomas comes on. We talked about the versatility of a Michael Carter, who is a great slot corner and able to come inside if motions dictate that he needs to do that. So I agree with you. And old Dave, the other thing is we're going to blitz a lot more, I think, using the speed of guys like Sherwood and Quincy. So I do think that is exciting, and we are going to see some innovation and versatility from this Steve Wilkes defense, which has a track record of being towards the top of the league in sacks and interceptions. So that's going to be really exciting. And then Bird Fluck FC says, as always, love the vids, but keep doing what you do. Straight fire. I really appreciate that. When I started Jets Latest, about, 5-6 months ago, I didn't know how it was going to go, but I've really been encouraged and buoyed by the positive comments that we have seen. People appreciate the kind of insights, analysis, the stats, the optimism, the quotes, but kind of mixing that with actual football knowledge and actual realism about that it will take time, that these things build. I always reference Detroit with Dan Campbell, but in that first year when they had Jared Goff, they went 0-10 to start, right? And then it turned around. If we can be patient and we can keep that good feeling, and then at the end of the year, we know that Justin Fields is the quarterback. Some of these young dudes took that next step, and then otherwise, we clean the deck, we clean the budget, and we keep building, okay? That is the way we can do it, and I, for one, am excited to see it really get started in training camp later this week. If you want to hear more from me, the spitting statistician Dane Martinez, even more than just the JETS, Jets. Now that we're getting into training camp soon, we've got fantasy football on the horizon, and I am the host of the FTN Fantasy Show over on SiriusXM Channel 87, the Fantasy Channel. FTN Fantasy is a great website, tools, ranking, articles, all sorts of data and simulations to have you be a better fantasy player and a better sports bettor. Speaking of sports betting, I am also the host of In Game Live over on Sports Grid TV, where we go around the sports world at night and trying to find live betting opportunities, okay? And there are really some inefficiencies in the market, so you want to check me out on Sports Grid for that. But if you're just wary about the green and white, hit me up in the comments. Hit me up on social media. We are building, and this is going to be an exciting 2025, starting with training camp a little bit later on this week. And I know one thing, I will be here to talk about it. Hopefully you're here to watch it, like it, subscribe to it, and tell a Jets fan friend to tell a Jets fan friend. But for now, we out of here. Peace.